So to me, it's two things that I'm trying to do here. One is to help you get there quicker and faster and give you new tips and tools for doing that. But the other thing I'm trying to do here is really just helping you remember deep down inside who you really are. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, 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 my friends. You know what time it is. It's time for Life of a CISO with yours truly. Dr. E is in the house. It is truly an honor and privilege to spend some time with you. I know how valuable your time is. So it's just so much fun and to me so exciting for us to virtually, and even though I'm in a studio by myself, I feel like there's thousands of people in here with me because I can feel your energy and your love, and I'm sending it right back at you. And we're going to go in today and talk about what is holding you back from being a world-class CISO. Now, the reality is, and I want to be careful of how I word this, the authentic version of every one of you listening to this is a world-class CISO. So to me, it's two things that I'm trying to do here. One is to help you get there quicker and faster and give you new tips and tools for doing that. But the other thing I'm trying to do here is really just helping you remember deep down inside who you really are. Right? So yes, I can teach some of the skills for being a world-class CISO to get you there faster and quicker than if you tried this on your own. But the other piece is I need to wake you up, because once you accept and recognize that you're a world-class CISO, and I'll say that again, once you accept and recognize who you really are, you are a world-class CISO. It's just the physical evidence hasn't shown itself yet, so you might be doubting it, or you might have put up artificial barriers in your way. So what we're talking about on this episode of Life of a CISO, what are the barriers that stop somebody from becoming a CISO? What are the barriers that stop somebody once they're a CISO from becoming world class? And the reality is, every one of us has barriers. And the logic theory behind this is quite simple. If there weren't any barriers standing in your way, you would have accomplished what you wanted. So if you want to be a CISO, and you're currently not, you currently have a different title, but your current title, your current business card, your current email signature does not say Chief Information Security Officer, the only reason is because there's one or more barriers in the way. Because if there wasn't, you would be it, right? If it was simple and easy, if you basically just had to go out and go bum, bum, there were zero barriers. You just had to show up and you became a CISO, wouldn't you agree that every one of you would be a CISO? So if you're not a CISO, we need to figure out why. We need to figure out what is the barrier that's standing in your way and remove it, because once we remove it, then the natural progression will occur. Or if you're currently a CISO, but you haven't been able to advance up to a Fortune 50 or multi-billion dollar company, The reality, once again, is there's a barrier that's in your way. Now, here's the coolest part. All barriers that exist are artificial. They are not true. However, not just we, but society as a whole has created these artificial barriers and have given so much life to them. They've implanted them in you, and you believe them to be true when they're not. So one of my paths of self-discovery that I'm on right now, which is so cool, and I'll probably do some future podcasts on it, what if we question everything? Anything that we believe to be true. What if we question and say, is that really true? Is it really true, or do we just believe it to be true, but there's not factual data to support it? So as you know, I always like my stories. I always like my analogies. So the one we're going to talk about here on overcoming barriers, on what is stopping you from being a CISO or a world-class CISO, is what I like to refer to as, what is your 4-minute mile? And if you're not familiar with the story, it has to do with a gentleman by the name of Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile. Now let me give some context to bring the story alive. Prior to 1954, it was believed that human beings were incapable of running a mile in under 4 minutes. A human being was just not able to do that. That was the belief. That was the limiting belief. That was the false belief. But here's the problem. Everyone thought that belief was true. There were all these articles that if a human ran a mile in under 4 minutes, their heart would explode and they would die. I mean, talk about powerful lies, right? I mean, that's a pretty good one. I don't know about you, but if there's something that if I do it, my heart's going to explode and I'm going to die, I don't think I want to do it, right? My brain is going to be like, we ain't doing that. That's not good for survival. So for hundreds of years, nobody was able to run a mile in under 4 minutes. The limiting false belief was so strong and powerful in society that they implanted in individual humans that no one was able to do it. Many, many people tried, but everyone failed because in the back of their mind was a story saying, you can't do it. And if you do, you will die. And it was so big an obstacle, and it was so strong a limiting belief. It influenced thousands upon thousands of people for hundreds of years that no one was able to overcome that obstacle. And people essentially in the early 1950s were accepting it to be true. A human being could not run a mile in under 4 minutes, period. And then Roger Bannister comes along, and in 1954, he breaks the 4-minute mile. He runs a mile in under 4 minutes. Now, if it was true that humans couldn't run a mile in 4 minutes, and Roger Bannister was just a freak of nature, he was from another planet who was brothers with Superman, right? And he just was superhuman. What would have happened was he would have ran the mile in under 4 minutes and no one else would have. But check out what happens. Once he did it, and he shattered the limiting belief and said, you will not die. You will be okay if you do it. Check out what happened once that barrier was removed. Once that barrier was removed, within 2 months, 3 other people ran a mile under 4 minutes. Today, over 1,500 people have ran a mile in under 4 minutes, and it's not uncommon for collegiate athletes to run a mile in under 4 minutes. It's actually become fairly common, which means the whole idea that a human could not run a 4-minute mile was a false belief. It was a lie. It was the biggest pile of you-know-what that ever got made. But society did such a great job of brainwashing. People believed it to be true, and it held them back. So the question for you, what is your 4-minute mile? What is a belief that you currently have that's holding you back from being the best version you could be? There is something there. It's subtle. And the reason it's subtle is because it's become a part of your programming. That is one of the reasons why our program is so successful, and it's so different, because we do coaching. If you attend a training class where there are 40, 50, 60 people in the room, an instructor sits up there with PowerPoints and clicks, 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 for 40 or 50 hours, you can learn all that material. But the reality is, if there's a limiting belief, which there is, because if there wasn't, you would be where you want to be, and it never gets fixed, that training is going to have minimal benefit. You're going to feel great. You're going to be like, wow, that was amazing, because you felt the energy and you were able for a brief moment in time to be able to grasp that power of what it felt like to be what you want to be, a world-class CISO. But then as soon as you leave, those beliefs come right back again. And this is why you see people stuck. This is why I see security engineers and world-class CISOs stuck all the time, because of those beliefs. And I'll give you a great example. I have many students that are extremely well qualified. They have extreme experience and knowledge. And I'm talking to them, and usually within the first 5 to 10 seconds, it just rolls off their tongue. Eric, I'm so glad to be here. I've wanted to be a CISO for the last 3 years, but I'm just not CISO material. Or, Eric, I've been trying and I want to be a CISO, and I've posted a few resumes and I've tried, but I'm just accepting the fact that companies are not going to hire me as a CISO. Now just pause. If your narrative that you say on a regular basis is, I am not CISO material, or no one's going to hire me as a CISO, you are basically saying, if I run a mile in under 4 minutes, I'm going to die. Right? It's at that same level of intensity. You are basically telling your mind, this cannot be done. Now, there were people who tried to run the 4-minute mile before Roger Bannister and couldn't. Their mind would not allow them to do it because they thought they would die. But as soon as Roger Bannister did it, and he lived, in their mind, the program switched. Humans can run a 4-minute mile, and you do not die, and I can do it. And many of the people that ran a 4-minute mile the 6 months after Roger Bannister did in 1954 were people that failed multiple times prior because they didn't think they could. But Roger Bannister changed their reality, changed their programming, and just like that, they went from failure to success. And that's the coolest part about what I do. The coolest part about what I do is I can do that same thing. I can take somebody that said, I can't run the mile in 4 minutes. I can't run the mile in 4 minutes. Roger Bannister does it and boom, they can. Well, we basically simulate the same process in your brain. You're saying, I can't do it. I am not CISO material. No one will hire me as a CISO. And all I need to do is show you you can. I just need to go in and prove to you without a shadow of a doubt that those are false beliefs. Those are limiting beliefs. So the way we overcome barriers, and believe it or not, the first step is the hardest. You have to become aware of the barrier. If you don't know the barrier is there, you can't remove it. And if you can't remove it, it will continue to be a truth in your mind. Most people, because it's been there for so long, they don't even know it's there. There's an old saying, if you tell yourself something frequent enough, long enough, with enough conviction, you will believe it to be true. If you look at the history of the world, there's been people that have done ridiculously crazy things and things that are so horrific, I don't even want to bring it up on this podcast, but you know what I'm talking about. And you go, how in the world could people have done that? And it's simple. If you say something and you repeat something long enough with enough frequency and enough conviction, your mind is like a computer, and you will program that computer. And then once that program is there, it runs without you even realizing it. So if you're currently not a CISO and you want to be, or you're a CISO and you're not a world-class CISO, I have great news for you. Today is your breakthrough. Today is your day of victory, because you need to figure out, what is that barrier? My guess is it's probably something similar to what I said. I don't have enough experience. I don't understand business. I don't present well to executives. I'm not CISO material. I don't do well in high pressure situations. I don't connect well with executives. I don't have a business background. I'm too technical. I'm too young. I'm too old. And the list can go on and on and on. And this is the hardest part. The hardest part is you, unfortunately, believe it to be true. And I'm here to tell you it's not. And I promise I don't get into politics on my podcast, but I look at the current world and I look at all the pain that people are in because they're making up these excuses of why they can't live their dream. And I'm like, stop giving other people all your power. You are an amazing human, and stop believing the lies. I truly believe everyone has a piece of them that makes them limitless, but you need to tap into it. Stop letting false beliefs, stop letting obstacles hold you back from your greatness. You are world class. I don't turn anybody into world class. The only things I do in the CISO arena, and the reason why I have amazing breakthroughs, I'll let you know my secret sauce. My secret sauce is simple. I hold up a mirror so you can see who you really are. I love that scene in Lion King where Simba was raised, right? He ran away and he was raised by the hyena and whatever that, the hedgehog or whatever, those other characters. I need to rewatch Lion King again. And he believes that's who he is. He believes because that's all he's seen. He sees the external around his surroundings, says that's who I am. And then one day he sees a puddle and he looks in the puddle and he sees that he's a lion. And there's this transformation where it's like, whoa, I never saw who I really was. So part of what I do for you, I just hold up that mirror. I just let you see who you really are, and then I become your Roger Bannister. I show you that the 4-minute mile can be run, and you will survive and thrive if you do it. So just a simple example. With folks who come in, and any of those categories, but they're all very similar, but I'll use the I'm not CISO material. But you can use the same process with any of the others. So I go to them and I say, okay, take out a piece of paper, or I'm going to take out my iPad. And I want you to tell me, what is CISO material? And they look at me like, what do you mean? I'm like, you have made a statement that you are not CISO material. Is that not true? And they're like, yes. Great. So if you are so clear that you are not CISO material, then can you please tell me what CISO material is? List out the attributes or the characteristics of CISO material. So now a few things happen. There's a few paths we can take. First is, they're like, Eric, I never actually thought about what I was saying. I don't know what CISO material is. So that means if you don't actually know what CISO material is, you very well could be CISO material. The light starts to go on. Right? They start to get this awareness, and that's what I love. That's why I love what I do, because then they start waking up and they start realizing that there's no such thing as CISO material. It's a made-up term. And then boom, once we shatter it, I can then convince them that people just like them are CISOs all the time. That's one path. The other path, they actually have an answer. Well, Eric, CISO material is somebody who's a proven executive. Great. What's a proven executive? Well, they can do this, 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 this. So I start writing out all the characteristics. And we create a list. 20, 30, 40 characteristics. So, okay. So you're telling me this is CISO material. So somebody with these attributes. Now, do they have to have all these attributes? Or like if they have 75% of them? Like what is, because you said CISO material. So I want to understand what you mean when you say CISO. You're creating the rules of life right now. So they'll go, oh, Eric, you have to have 20 of the 35. Great. Now we're making progress. So you're telling me in order for somebody to be a CISO, they have to have 20 of these 35 attributes. Yes. Great. Now just side note. I could go in and basically prove that's wrong, because that's not true. I'll tell you right now, I don't know any company, when they hire a CISO, they have a list of 35 and you have to have 20 to 35. But that's a harder route, so I'm going to go for the easy one. I'm going to play with your belief. So we go in, and I take a highlighter, and I say, okay, do you have this attribute? And we start going through. Yes, no, yes, no, 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 yes, no, yes. And I start highlighting. 85% of the time when I do this exercise, the person has way more than 20. They have like 23, 20. So I'm like, great. You told me that to be CISO material, you need 20 to 35, and you have 26. So why is it that you don't think you're CISO material? And once again, the light goes on, right? All of a sudden, they realize they are. Now, here's the cool part of why I go down this route. Let's say you're that 20% that doesn't have 20. You have 15 or 16 or 17. Very rarely, but if it happens, I say, great. You are 3 short. So you are 17 and you need 20. Let's take a pink highlighter. Out of the remaining, which ones are the easiest and simple for you to get? Which ones, if you put in time, energy, and effort over the next several weeks or several months, you could get there? And we highlight, usually it's 4 or 5. And I say, great. So here's the plan. You're going to read this book, do this, do this, do this, and we lay out a 4-week program that if they do that, and by the way, it's certain modules in the program that I have. The CISO cert has over 40 hours. So I assign 5 or 6 hours that align with what they need. And then I come back in a month and say, okay, can we turn the pinks into yellows? And they say yes. I say, congratulations. According to your own definition, you now have 22 of the 35, and according to your own definition, you are now CISO material. Congrats, go get a job. And here's the craziest thing. Every single one of them, after 2 to 3 years of saying they can't and they couldn't, within 3 to 4 months, get their dream job. My goal for everyone in my CISO cert is that within the 6 months of working together, if that's what you want, other people have different goals, but if that's what you want, I'm not only going to remove those barriers, I'm going to give you that knowledge and expertise that you're not only going to get one, but my goal for you is that you get multiple job offers and they get into a bidding war where you get over 40% of what you wanted from an asking salary. How does that sound? And remember, it's all about overcoming barriers. So to be a CISO, or if you're currently a CISO, to be a world-class CISO, I just laid out the process. Figure out what your barriers are and overcome them. And if you'd like to get there quicker, faster, better, sign up for our CISO Cert. And it's a 6-month program. And I'm going to take you on the wildest ride of your life because I'm going to transform who you are. Now, you can do it on your own. Notice, free podcast, I didn't hold back. But if you want to get there quicker, faster, better, then sign up for that CISO Cert. And I look forward to seeing you on the next call where we are going to go in and transform.